Hi, it's me again, AJ Hartley. I'm a Shakespeare professor and a novelist, and I'm a fan of baby metal, among other things. And I did a little video about talking about Doki Doki Morning, and people were really nice about it, which was unexpected. And a number of people suggested I should do some more. So thank you for the encouragement and the suggestions. Much appreciated. And I thought, I don't know how many of these I'll do or how far I'll go through the catalog, but it seemed to make a kind of sense to move on to the next single that they released and talk a little about Headbanger, which has a number of different names depending on how it was released. And while the original video, the official studio video, is really cool, I really wanted to get into some of the live stuff just because the dynamic of the band on stage is so cool. Again, the point of these videos is not to play you music that you've already heard. And as with most of the things I do, it's pretty low tech. So I apologize for that. But the point is to just sort of kick around some ideas about how I'm responding to the song and what I think is going on in it, which is kind of cool. So enjoy. This is Baby Metal Headbanger. Okay, so we start off with that great atmospheric, quasi-liturgical church organ sound, so it has this air of portentousness, of ritual, of significance, which I think is important for what this song is about, for reasons which hopefully will become apparent. And then we kick in, and as I said before in the last video I did, they love these sort of movements within the song, these sort of discrete sections. So we start with that, and then we kick into this wildly different thing, which is all melody and that slightly plinky plonky harpsichordy kind of sound, which is clearer on the studio version as a harpsichord. And she's singing about hair, right? Densetsu no kurokami o karei ni mirashi. She's talking about that legendary black hair arranged, wildly and elegantly. And I think it's really interesting that we start talking about hair. Obviously, this song is called Headbanger, so it's going to be about thrashing around and just throwing your hair all over the place. But hair is obviously a really important thing for lots of people, right? That it's a mark of both community and individuality, right? That especially in Japan, it's a mark of ethnicity. Asian hair is sort of famously strong and lustrous and black, which means that everybody kind of has a version of the same hair unless they go out of their way to dye it or change it radically. So it's so anything you do with your hair is a kind of pushback against some form of conformity of what is socially expected of you. And this is true in the West, of course, as well. Look at the history of the way people have worn their hair throughout particularly the mid-20th and 21st century. When I grew up, how you wore your hair told people what kind of music you listened to, what your politics were, everything, especially for men, right? Long hair for men. My hair is not usually this long. This is my pandemic hair. And so, we start off talking about hair, but then the first two lines are about hair, and then the next, kuruizaku kono hana wa hakanaku kieru, we shift to talking about a flower, which will soon fade, which will, is subject to temporal change, to decay. And juxtaposing these two things is really interesting because, as I said, how you carry your hair is obviously a mark of individuality and identity and so on, but it's also a mark of age. And I think, this is the sort of the heart of the song, right? Your hair ages, your hair goes grey, your hair falls out, thins. So part of what the song is going to be dealing with is this sort of critical moment in this person's life. And I think this is why we have that big liturgical opening, right? This sort of rite of passage kind of story. So let's go a little further. Okay, so I'm going to stop it there before we hit the main chorus. So, unlike a lot of baby metal songs, which tend to be very sort of kaleidoscopic lyrically, they tend to be sort of images thrown at you, ideas, impressions. The core of this song is a story, it's a narrative. And the story is about a girl going to a rock concert. And in this section that we just heard, she talks about buying the ticket, she talks about traveling to the show, and then getting herself to the front of the stage and throwing herself into the action. And this talk about crowd surfing and mosh pits and other stuff that goes on at a metal concert. And in a way, I think right from the start. So we're seeing it in the performance as well. Whatever restraint and decorum there is that's associated with conformity is going out the window, right? As she throws herself into this. I've seen a couple of analysis that talk about representing her as a kind of almost like a groupie, which I think is a problematic word. I don't think that's there in the song at all. About sort of obsessed with a particular band and following them around. I don't get that impression at all. I think lyrically, the implication is that this is new. This is maybe a one-time thing. It doesn't suggest a lot of that this is habitual, and it doesn't say anything about the band that she's listening to, which is important, I think, right? Because the emphasis is all on being in the audience and being in the moment. It's not about what's happening on stage. She talks about going down to the front of the stage, but she doesn't talk about instrumentalists, she doesn't talk about vocals, she doesn't talk about the sound. She talks about what it feels like to be an audience member in this situation. Yeah, so this is the heart of the song, right? Ichigo no yoru o wasureru shinai. So the special night of my 15th birthday, I'll never forget. As a couple of people have pointed out online, Ichigo is a curious way of saying 15 in Japanese. That you would usually go jugo. The best rationalization, best explanation I've seen for this is that the Ichigo in kanji creates a kind of verbal pun on once in a lifetime, which I think is really appropriate for what this song is about. So I'll never forget this night of my 15th birthday. Nakimushi na yatsu koko kara kie usero. So now all the crybabies can get out of here. So it's a sort of strong statement of, I'm throwing myself into this. It's a little bit scary. It's a little bit exciting. And if you can't handle it, get away from me. Okay. So again, it's that sense of agency, power. And I think one of the reasons I wanted to use the live recording is that I think, when Su-Metal sings this, there's this sense that she owns it. She gets it. So we get the return to the hair and the flower image again, because don't forget that we're talking about the fading, the falling of the flower, and then this extra little verse, Mooniro to moro narai wazuka no Tokyo. So this really short period will never come back. Kono mune ni kizamunda ichigo no yoru. I'm going to carve into my heart this memory of my 15th birthday. I find this quite sort of poignant, because this is what the song is about, right? The song's about seizing a particular moment in time, conscious that it will not last, right? She's leaving behind childhood. She's going out on her own. She's throwing herself into something which is intense and absolutely in the moment, right? When you're in that concert and nothing else matters, everything goes away, and you're in that, and this consciousness that you want to hold on to that because you can't sustain it, right? And I think that this is a sort of fundamental existential part of joy, right? That frequently in the moment of greatest happiness, there's this tiny touch of sadness that comes from knowing that it won't last, right? This is kind of fundamental to what it is to being alive. There's a lot of metal music that talks a lot about death, but usually it's death as sort of Grim Reaper, or horror movie carnage. It's death in the dramatic sense. This is not a song about death. This is a song about mortality, which is different. Mortality is the condition of living with the awareness of death and temporality, the sense that everything changes, things go away, things decay. And so I think, it's upbeat, it's joyous, but it's joyous in the context of wanting to hold on to this special thing. So, and she says it again in these lines. So it's never going to come back. So I'm carving it into my heart to remember it. And then the last line is, I jumping into the air and dancing like a feather or something floating around. This moment of almost of transcendence, but not, right? How cool is this? Just the sheer theatricality of it, the spectacle. This is why I wanted to do a live show, because the sense of all the audience is committed to it, and the band is everything about it is fully invested. And I think there is a sort of weird meta dimension to this song, right? I chose this. This is the Legend 1997 Apocalypse concert. And 1997 is the year that Sue Metal is born, right? So she's singing a song about turning 15 and going to a concert while turning 15 and performing a concert. So this sort of, and I said before, there's nothing in the song is about the band, because now she is the band, right? She goes from being audience member to band member. And there's this 100% commitment to the stage show, because I think this is something that she fundamentally understands, and I think the band understands it. And I think, again, I don't want to sort of play down I don't want to overplay the slightly more depressing or sad aspect of the song, but, everything passes. If you're the lead singer of a band that becomes famous for basically being a child act, then you must be acutely aware of the fragility of that existence and how long the band can last, in this context. let's give some props to the level of commitment and energy of this performance, But you also notice that there's a slightly different vibe with Yui and Moa and Sue. And they're more upbeat. They're more sort of guiding the positive energy of the crowd and having fun with it. And Sue's presence there's a seriousness, a stateliness to her, which I think she's really grown into as a performer. But it's also her song, right? I mean, in some later performances, she'll hand off the microphone to the others so that they can, on their birthdays, right, to celebrate. And they get to sort of sing part of the lead, which is very, very cool. But, when she's running the show, man, there's a sort of, the word again is presence, a seriousness, a gravitas to it, which underscores all the playfulness with this sense of power. Double time! Okay, so this is the climax of the song, right? The repetition with modification of that core chorus, and she sings it twice. The second time through, there are a couple of variations. One is that the line changes. Instead of the line about the crybabies, it now becomes about basically anything that disturbs us, anything that gets in our way has to get out of here, right? And you hear the crowd sing the first line, Ki Hedo, and then she comes back to it, and this time the melody line changes, right? Ichigo no yoru wasurei shinai. So the first time she thinks it's like that, and then the second time she comes to it, wasurei shinai. So she goes up to what is the highest note in the song. I think it's a C. And that's the moment of defiance. I will not forget this night. And this, I think, is, I said before, it's sort of poignant. And this is where I feel that the real sort of emotional meat of that moment is, and where she shines as a vocalist. Because in hitting that note in the way that she does, you feel like this is not prophecy, I won't forget this night. This is decision. I won't allow myself to forget this night, because this is as good as it gets. And I know that now, right? I know that, and we have these moments, everybody has these moments where you just think, I just want to hold on to this forever, because the rest of my life maybe will never produce anything quite this great. So that, as Morrissey would say, in the midst of life we are in death, etc. stop it there. So there's a little bit of instrumentation at the end, and we've got the gong at the end. But I don't have anything more to say. So yes, I love this song. I think it has so much sort of richness and complexity, and in the sort of simplicity of the emotion. I know that's a paradox, but the clarity of that sort of emotional through line for the song. It's a carpe diem song, right? It's a song about holding on to, grabbing hold of the good stuff, seizing the day. That's all I have to say. Thanks for watching. Stick around if you see, I don't know, maybe I'll do some more of these if people like them, since people have been kind so far. And we'll see. I'll just keep doing the songs that mean the most to me, and we'll see how far that takes us.